Hi, my name is Evan Chandler. I'm with Group 5 and we're doing the Toulmin model. I'm going to be talking about where the Toulmin model came from. I'm mostly going to be talking about Stephen Toulmin since that's the man who created the Toulmin argumentative model. Stephen Toulmin was an influential philosopher who conducted wide-ranging inquiries into ethics, science, and moral reasoning. Here's a picture of the man himself. He's got a good little beard going. Pretty decent looking guy. Stephen Toulmin was born on March 25th, London, 1922, and died at the age of 87 on December 4th due to heart failure. Stephen Toulmin earned his degree from King's College in Cambridge in 1942. Then he studied philosophy in 1948, earning his moral science degree. Stephen Toulmin had many important works such as The Philosophy of Science, The Fabric of Heavens, Foresight and Understanding, Examination of the Place of Reasons in Ethics. He is best known for his work, The Uses of Argument, published in 1958. In it, he criticized formal logic as an overly abstract, false representation of how humans actually argue. He challenged its claims to universality as well as its faith in absolute truth and moral certainty. Stephen Toulmin believed that philosophers should concentrate less on abstractions and more on real-world issues such as medical and environment. Toulmin once wrote, "It's time for philosophers to come out of their self-imposed isolations and re-enter the world of practical life and shared human problems." A little side story about Stephen Toulmin that I found that was kind of interesting doing my research is he lived with 550 students in the dorms for nearly a decade until 2003. That's dedication right there. Him and his wife offered Wednesday night pizza parties and turned their place into a crash pad for students to study for finals. I like pizza. That's a great idea. The Toulmin model of argumentation was ignored by most academics in philosophy but greatly influenced by those in rhetoric and communication, mainly because it was rejected in Aristotelian analysis as not very useful for everyday use. I butcher that word every time, I apologize. According to a humanist, it awakens philosophers out of a nightmare. The nightmare brought on by overrich banquet upon mathematical drawback. Stephen Toulmin's frustration with the inability to form formal logic to explain everyday arguments which pushed him to develop his model of practical reasoning. Roy P., a professor of learning sciences and education at Stanford University, said that Stephen's essential contribution was to bring philosophy back from the abstractions of reasons and logic, the world of Plato and Descartes, to human condition. He argued that if we want to understand questions of ethics, science, and logic, we have to inquire into the everyday situation in which they arise. These quotes from the Professor P are really showing where the idea of the sixth component model came from. Stephen Toulmin wants to tackle on controversial issues in everyday life using his model. Stephen Toulmin had problems at first with his ideas because it wasn't the regular three-component model. Toulmin model reminds us that arguments are generally expressed with qualifiers and rebuttals rather than asserted absolutes. The Toulmin model has been highly useful for analyzing strengths and weaknesses in arguments. It is now commonly used in debate manuals, interpretations of literary texts, computer science, and artificial intelligence. Yuf Hua Jensen, I butchered that as well, a philosophy professor at Harris University in Denmark, said, like Wittgenstein, he believed that philosophy should not be a scholastic discipline, with philosophers just analyzing the works and arguments of other philosophers. He was an intellectual giant, a true Renaissance man. Some of the benefits that arose from the Toulmin model was it forces you to think beyond your claim to what it stands for. Gets you to think about what type of claim you are going to use, gives you a more in-depth of what you are arguing. And it also requires you anticipate and consider possible changes to your claim. This is important because, like many arguments, aren't prepared for the opposing argument. The Toulmin model gets you ready for the opposing arguments. The Toulmin model is there to state much more than a basic argument or agreement. The Toulmin model gives us a chance to break down an argument and analyze it. Thank you.